All right, this video I'll show you guys how to find government lists, code violations, pre-foreclosures, and a bunch of other things, right? Showing you guys where to get these lists from, how to acquire these lists, and how to filter these lists out and find the ones that are truly motivated. With government lists, it's a little bit tricky. It's a lot harder to actually get these lists, right? And then when you do get them, like I said, there's extreme motivation behind these, especially for sellers, because they have a desire to sell, right? They're all, whether they're going under pre-foreclosure, whether they have, too many code violations, or, they're going through probate, tax delinquents, whatever the case may be. There's true motivation behind it, not just just the want to sell, right? They have to sell at a certain point. And I'll show you guys how to find these sellers, how to acquire these lists, and also how to filter them and make sure that you have the numbers and the addresses and everything checks out. So in this case here, we'll go over code violations, right? Code violations is a really good tool, especially for acquiring motivated sellers, right? I mean, majority of sellers, if you have a violation on your property, 9 times out of 10, you're not maintaining it, you're not keeping up with it. And I can show you here, how to, filter out all the BS violations. So you're essentially not chasing sellers that are, really not motivated, and chasing the ones that are actually motivated and, like I said, have a desire or have a need to sell. So in this case, we'll kind of go over everything. I provide you guys, like I said, within the Discord, I provide you guys a link to this as well, giving you guys full access to every single city in Dallas, and their website to be able to get access to the code violations. Another thing as well, right, with government lists is one or two things, right? You kind of have to figure it out really early on. If it's, for instance, for a pre-foreclosure, they're by county, right? So you have to kind of go after the county. If it's code violations, you kind of have to go for the city, right? So each violation, or I guess necessarily each motivation, you kind of have to go after a different, either it's a city or it's a county. Sometimes it's a lot harder to get some of these lists. But again, I'll provide you guys with all the tools and resources to acquire these lists. But again, yeah, let's get started with code violation. I'm gonna show you here how to get these lists, how to essentially pull them from the public records. And then again, I do want to give a little disclaimer here. With getting some of these government lists, for instance, code violation, it takes roughly around, I want to say 5 to 6 or 7 business days for you to actually get these lists, right? I don't fully encourage just strictly only doing government lists, right? You should definitely include, right, when you send out text, government lists, but in addition to government lists, you should always include the filters that I provided you as well, right? I mean, a combination of both is just, it's perfection, right? I mean, you should get a deal in no time, right, if you're doing it correctly. But in this case here, I'll show you how to acquire this code violation list. Now, so in this case, it already has me signed in, and all you do is click, records request, right? And once you've clicked that, you'll be directed to this page here, and I'll provide you guys with a template and a layout to essentially place in here, right? And this template and this layout basically gives whoever is at the county clerk office, right, kind of instructions on what to do and how to get you these lists and how to deliver them to you, and essentially what list you're looking for, right? I mean, 9 times out of 10, if you just tell them code violations, they're not going to give it to you, right? You kind of have to be, to a certain degree, professional, right? But at the same time, you kind of have to, it has to be professional as well, right? So if you're just sending them code violations, send it to my email, they're not going to respond, right? So I provide you guys with a list in here, and kind of give you guys instructions on what to do in the Discord as well. But first and foremost, right, is you would place a template in here, right? Place the template that I provided for you in the Discord, and these templates have different categories in them, right? One being code violations, another being pre-foreclosures, another being probates, tax delinquents, arrest records, many of different things, right? In this case, like I said, we're looking at code violations. So you would go to the code violation category, you will get the template and you'll place it in here, right? And once that template is placed in there, from there you will move on and you click digital copy, right? You always want to click digital copy. You never want to click any of these three because it'll make it'll be a lot longer before you actually receive the copy, right? And another thing is you just click yes on here and then yes on here, and then you fill out this portion here and you click submit request, right? And once you've done that, you go over here, click view my requests, and this pretty much allows you to view all your requests when you submitted them, and even when you submitted these requests, you should receive an instant email from the county letting you know that they received your email and your request and that they're working on it. Um, in this case here, you can see that I submitted a request 3 days ago and I have yet to still receive the files, right? So typically, like I said, it takes about I want to say 6-7 business days to actually receive the file. But I'll show you guys here what to do once you've received the file. In this case here, this was a file that I requested about a month ago or so, or a few months ago, and it's delivered like this, right? I mean, they typically, not only do they send you an email, but they also update your account showing you that the file has been submitted to you. And all you would do is you would just download this file, and once the file is downloaded, you would move over to the sheets. And the best thing about code violations as well, right? Not every single county offers this, but or city, excuse me, offers this, but I mean they provide it so neatly and so easy to organize because they give it to you in a Google sheet, right? I mean, if for instance, if you're going for pre-foreclosures, it's a lot harder, it's a little bit more manual work, and they don't kind of provide it to you in a Google sheet. But for instance, code violations, which is why I really like them so much, it's so easy to get the list, filter it out, and have it sent out all within the same day, right? And I'm talking about hundreds of violations, not just one or two. So great. So now that we have this open, we'll look over and we'll look at all these violations. As you can see, right, there's a few pointless, meaningless violations like this here. Some of these really don't make any sense, right? Excuse me. Failure to register vacant property, right? That's a little bit of motivation. We'll keep that. This right here doesn't make sense. Air conditioner not operating, we'll keep that. Appliances not operating, we'll keep that. And again, motivation, when you look at some of these violations, right, I want you guys to understand one thing, right? If it doesn't make sense, you're probably just better off clicking it out, right? Because if you can't look at this and see any type of motivation behind it or see that the seller will probably want to sell, then it is 9 times out of 10 just wasting your time, and you necessarily don't want it in your list, right? So you just look through all these violations, about 98 of them, and you just kind of select and unselect some of the ones that have motivation, and then the ones that obviously don't make sense, you'll just deselect them, right? Like dead trees and tree limbs. I mean, I would deselect it. If you want to keep it, that's fine, but things like emergency number posted and phone, right? We'll just deselect that. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Exposed wires, we'll just select that, right? I mean, exposed wires isn't enough for somebody to just want to sell, right? At times. Now, if they have exposed wires with vacant property and so on and so forth, then okay, that could be a little bit more motivation, right? But typically, if it's just exposed wires as a violation, then 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to want to sell, right? So the key is to just look through all these, find ones that make sense, and the ones that don't necessarily make sense, you will just deselect it. Once that, comes to an end, you've reached the bottom and you've already selected and unselected ones that don't make sense, you'll just click OK, right? And it will just filter out all the ones that don't make sense. In this case here, you have about, 3,600, properties, right? So that's a really good start. And once you have, all the properties that, again, that you think have motivation behind them or want to sell, another thing you'll do is or what I like to do is I just like to delete these 2 rows, right? Because you don't need them anymore. And then another thing is, keep them all in one tab, right? So you see how all these addresses are all on the left. You just keep them there. And then what I like to do again is, I like to have city, state, and zip code, right? And what that means is I give you guys essentially a script, right? Or provide you guys with a tool that allows you to pretty much unscramble this and have the address here, city here, state here, and zip code here, right? And once you get that, it becomes a lot easier. And again, it's all in the Discord if you guys want to join. Again, it's completely free, right? It gives you guys all the tools and resources that you need to essentially get started and get deals today, right? So again, if you want to provide that in there, so if you want to go in there and check that out, that's makes it a lot easier. And then again, it allows you to get these deals a lot faster. But yeah, so once you got these, filtered out and organized correctly, next step would be to download it as a CSV, and then thereafter you will, log into your batch leads and then skip trace it and then get all the records, export it, clean the data, and then send it out to Fusion or send out for text, text blast, right? So that's pretty much it, right? That's how you pull government lists. I know it's it's a little bit easier because again, I provide you with all these websites and so on and so forth, but for the most part, that is how you do it, right? And again, I want to show you guys one other thing in addition to just code violations. So if you want to pull pre-foreclosures, I'll show you guys how to pull those as well. This is Harris County, right? And as I said previously, pre-foreclosures typically are by the county, right? So if you want to pull a pre-foreclosure for whatever city or state you're in, you have to do it by the county, right? So in this case, we're going Harris County. So all you have to do is search up Harris County clerk records, right? And once you've searched that up, you get directed to this website. And once you're on this website, all you go is search records. And once you click on search records, you go to property records and you go to foreclosures. And now you have all the foreclosures for Harris County. So all you have to do is obviously filter it by the year. In this case, if you want to start in January, you click search, and then you have all the for pre-foreclosures for January. And this is a little bit more labor intense, right? So obviously you have to go to each file, pull the address, place it on batch leads and skip trace it, and then you got to do this about 793 times, right? So it's definitely going to take you a lot longer. It's definitely a lot harder than just requesting code violations from the county, or excuse me, from the city, and having them send it through it as a Google Sheets. So like I said, this is a little bit more labor intense. And then if you guys need a breakdown on how to find the addresses within these files, I kind of make another separate video on that. But for the most part, this is it, right? This is pre-foreclosures. These are all the pre-foreclosures within Harris County. You can always go to February as well, and then so on and so forth. Again, likewise for Dallas County as well, right? So if you want to go to Dallas County, let me just go back. Dallas County clerk, right? You'll search up Dallas County clerk, clerk website, same thing. All you do is you go here. This one's a little bit different. You'll go to recording division, and then once you're here, you'll look at foreclosure notices, and then you'll get directed to files like this, right? So you have December, you have January, and you have February. And likewise, this is just as hard, kind of just going in there, looking at these files, finding the address and placing them into batch leads and skip tracing. But yeah, if you guys want a little bit more in-depth video on how to find these addresses within the file, let me know. I can make a video on that. If you have any other videos, maybe diving deeper into different government lists like tax delinquents, probates, so on and so forth, let me know. I can make a video on that as well. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll hopefully get that answered.